Hello everyone, today I'd like to talk about two words with PE that I'm sure you already read in the video title, physical education. Now, alright, pay attention class, because if you really were, you would know we are actually talking about prediction and execution. So let me take a minute to define each term. Prediction is being able to foresee or anticipate a certain event. Execution is being able to perform a certain action or initiate a plan, with success resulting in good execution and failure resulting in bad execution. Let me emphasize that these two ideas are not at all mutually exclusive, and when they have a good amount of overlap, they can result in what a lot of people call a hard read.
The hardest reads ever!
You ever wonder how great players seem to know exactly what to do in certain situations? They're able to outplay their opponents through a recognition of scenarios and quick implementation of actions that have the highest amount of reward and least amount of risk. The ability to be 1 or 2 steps ahead of your opponent can be a huge advantage, and that's where prediction and execution come into play. To quote Smash 4 legend Zero in his video about reading your opponents, he says, "The most important thing about reading players is to understand the intentions behind their every move." I like this phrasing because it can really try to put you in a mindset of your opponent and get you to think about why they're doing some of the actions they decided to do. Are they being a bit more defensive and letting me move first to force me to be more reactionary? Do they just keep running straight at me trying to catch my shots with their teeth because they're unaware of how unsafe they are? Sometimes players will make unoptimal moves, and regardless of whether or not they're just trying to be unpredictable, or they just don't know how much of a disadvantage they may be putting themselves in, there's still a reason behind why they do it, and understanding that reasoning can make your own decision-making that much stronger. To add a second coat of ink to each concept's definition and how they more directly relate to Splatoon, you can predict many different things, such as where your opponents will move or whether or not they will plan to activate their special. Depending on the game mode, you know the exact goal of your opponent, and depending on which stage you're playing on, you can try and predict the exact paths your enemies will want to take to achieve the map objective, and set yourself up in a position to open fire on them. Execution can be just about any action you take in Splatoon, or even as simple as whether or not you were able to splat your opponent in a 1v1. Were you able to activate your splashdown in time? Did you position it properly to inflict lethal damage to your opponent? Did you mess up your execution just a bit by not dropping down fully and hitting a ledge, or maybe getting obscured by a wall? Or did you wait too long to activate splashdown and getting splatted altogether? I like talking about these two ideas together because however well you execute can really make or break the effectiveness of a prediction. Maybe you see someone with splashdown at the ready and predict they will use it soon, so you mentally prepare yourself to try and hit them at the peak of their jump. That scenario can play out in any number of different ways. A. You were correct. They activated splashdown and you aimed properly at the right spot to splat them. Accurate prediction and good execution. Good on you, top marks. B. You were correct. They activated splashdown, but you just barely missed and you still got splatted, even though you were able to predict their action. Accurate prediction, but poor execution. C. You were incorrect about splashdown, but were able to splat them anyway because you were able to compensate with good execution of shots. Inaccurate prediction, but good execution. D. You weren't really able to be correct or incorrect about splashdown, because it turns out there was another enemy beside your target that picked you off first. Invalid prediction. It doesn't matter whether or not they were going to activate splashdown, bad execution, and an unfortunate assumption that the enemy was by themselves, which could be more accurately attributed to poor awareness, but that's a different concept that I may talk about in a future video. Moving on, how about I show you some completely unscripted use of prediction and execution in action. I'm going to break down some examples to explain my thought process, and we'll start simple and work our way up. I'm a huge advocate of bombs, as they are an easy one-button press solution to force enemy movement. So for this example, I'm placing bombs and knowing my targets can't stay in those spots. I try and predict where my opponent will want to go from there. As you see, I've thrown a blind bomb behind a wall at someone I can't really see. I have no idea if my bomb landed in a usable spot where I wanted, and I can't tell whether my opponent went to the left or right. However, there are a few educated guesses that I can make. This is Turf War, and we have the enemy team somewhat pinned on their side of the map, so I know they're desperate to try and find a way out, which leads me to believe my target will probably continue moving forward, and in my case, they probably went left. Predicting is very much guessing, and that can sometimes involve a bit of luck, but experience will help you start to make more accurate predictions over time. And don't worry, it's okay if you make a bad prediction sometimes. There are times when you'll need a clutch result and getting your prediction right can make or break your chances of winning, but there are also smaller times like this, where an incorrect prediction isn't the end of the world, and can sometimes have a result that was even better than what you may have wanted. Let's say my prediction was off, and my target wanted to be safer and stay on their side of the map, so they went to the right instead. That scenario is still a win for me, because they wouldn't be taking any of my turf, and I don't even have to deal with them at that point. But now I'll move along a bit faster. I see someone moving in with a curling bomb, but not much turf to move in, so I place a suction bomb behind them. They may or may not have seen me throw it, but they certainly didn't hear it land, as the strength of a suction bomb is their silence. I pressure them from the front, which makes them think they can't move forward anymore, so of course they're going to want to move back. But we already know why that's a bad idea, since I placed a trap for them moments prior. This was a very quick engagement that was decided in a few moves, and that's how quickly you need to be able to come up with a plan and then execute. I had a good amount of luck for everything to come out as I had predicted, but my experience told me about how much effort I needed to put in for success. In this example, you'll see me use the art of misdirection and patience to turn my opponent's aggression against them. Generally, blaster players like to attack anything that moves, so I pretend that I'm running away, when my real response was actually to fight rather than flight. This was a gamble that I easily could have lost if the Luna shot in the same place twice, but I predicted that they would readjust. An enemy teammate also happened to see me, but they entered the battle with very little information, as I've hardly made any moves, so they don't quite know where I am, and I can easily punish them for their reckless entrance. A situation where I was somewhat outnumbered and didn't have much room to work with, I was easily able to win, all because I didn't panic and let them do most of the work for me. In Mori's zones, things just kinda lined up perfectly for me. They just got ink armor, which could have easily shut down any progress I wanted to make, but was fortunate enough, the first target I find is the Firefin Splat Charger. It's in my opinion the worst bomb launcher in the game while rushing, because it can't really defend itself with its main weapon while being rushed down. No sniper wants to have the tap shot, and it's putting out suction bombs that can be painfully slow to explode, so I'm easily able to run them over. Next, I find an Octobrush looking to go to our snipe. Now it had the high ground, so I was only looking to weaken it and nothing more. However, they decided to give up their high ground advantage and fight me in a weakened state, so all I needed was one more clean blow. And to follow that up, I'm lucky the Tri-Slosher was right behind me within my attack range, leaving the Squeezer desperate to try and hold on to his zone, not really focused on me. So my splats quickly snowballed into a quad, and even better with the fact that they used up 2 specials and got almost nothing out of it. A big and common mistake some people make is panicking and not being able to stop moving forward. Sometimes taking a breather and backing up, or sometimes even doing nothing, is a far more useful choice, as shown by my second example on Walleye. Here, I'm playing a solid defense and I'm not even having to move or work for it. If you're able to figure out the enemy is an impatient player, you've already got most of your prediction work done for you. And in a team game, mistakes can add up quickly. If everyone makes one mistake, that's already 4 mistakes. And if there were 4 big mistakes, that can cost a game. Now my goal here isn't to scare anyone or sound overly dramatic, because mistakes will happen, it's inevitable. But it should be about choosing your battles, and picking more of the ones that you know you can win. There is one more general observation I would like to point out about the flow of battle in Splatoon. If you move back, your opponent will most likely move up. Most people don't just let other people get away, so you can use this to bait your opponent into a better position for yourself. You saw me do this earlier in the video against a Jet Sculpture, who was out of my range, saw me run backwards and moved up, so I immediately turned around and shot them. That mind game is what I do here against this Brella. I hit and run on the brush, and the Brella wants to follow me, but I'm clearly ready, and they run headlong into my roller. Probably something obvious they normally wouldn't do, but I set the stage to mask my intentions, and it was all part of my prediction, and I executed my plan perfectly. Those 2 mistakes by the brush and the Brella then had to be picked up by the remaining Clash Blaster, who was probably already busy dealing with something else, and not ready to deal with me as well. And my team with no casualties is all ready to go and pick up the Rainmaker. And with a full wipe on the enemy team, this game is already pretty much done. Now, of course there are exceptions to almost any rule, and my word isn't law. I just want to share my thoughts and hope they may help some of you think more critically about your gameplay decision making. That'll be the point of this Food for Thought video series. In most surface level discussion and advice giving that I see, most people ask the question, what? Like, what weapon should I use? What abilities should I wear? But I feel how is a much more useful question in the long run and stimulating actual growth. Knowing what to use isn't very useful if you don't know what to do with it. But anyway, that's all for this topic. This has been the Gingerbread Man, and I predict that you can catch me in the next video. Thanks for watching.
Got him!